The rain hammered against the window like 1,000 accusing fingers as I stared at the blurry figure of my wife, Sarah, through the glass. She was out there in our driveway, her laughter cutting through the storm like a knife, laughing with him. Our neighbor, Mark, had just pulled me aside in his garage, his face pale under the fluorescent light, whispering words that shattered my world. "She's been sleeping with your boss, Tom. I've seen them. God, I'm sorry, but you need to know." My fists clenched until my nails dug into my palms, drawing blood. The metallic tang filled my mouth as I bit my tongue to keep from screaming. How could she? After 10 years, 2 kids, and a life I thought was solid as the house we built together. In that moment, fury boiled in my veins, hot and unrelenting, but beneath it lurked a colder beast. The seed of revenge, whispering promises of justice in the dark corners of my mind. I slammed the garage door behind me, the echo reverberating like a gunshot in my chest. My heart pounded erratically, a wild drumbeat urging me to storm out and confront her right then. But I didn't. Instead, I paced the cold concrete floor, the scent of oil and sawdust clinging to the air, grounding me in a twisted sort of reality. Sarah's laughter faded as she waved goodbye to Mark's wife, Lisa, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. Mark had slipped away moments earlier, his eyes avoiding mine after dropping that bomb. "I didn't want to be the one to tell you," he'd muttered, his voice thick with regret, or was it guilt? He'd seen them, Sarah and my boss, David, sneaking into our house when I was at work late shifts. The images flashed unbidden, her hands on him, his smug grin that I'd always hated at the office. Humiliation washed over me like acid, burning away the man I'd been just hours ago. Denial hit first, a desperate shield. No, Mark must be wrong. Sarah loved me, didn't she? We just celebrated our anniversary last month. Her eyes sparkling over candlelight as she toasted to forever. But even as I clung to that memory, doubt crept in, insidious and sharp. The late nights she'd claimed were girls' outings, the new lingerie I'd found tucked away in her drawer, dismissed as a surprise for me. Lies. I sank onto a stool, my head in my hands, the rough wood biting into my elbows. Heartbreak clawed at my throat, a sob escaping despite my efforts to choke it down. Our kids, Emily and Jack, 7 and 5, were upstairs, probably glued to their tablets, innocent in this mess. What would this do to them? To us? Resentment surged, twisting my grief into something darker. She didn't just betray me, she betrayed our family, our home. I needed proof. Obsession took root then, a frantic energy propelling me to my laptop in the home office. The room was dim, lit only by the glow of the screen, the hum of the fan mocking my ragged breaths. I logged into our shared cloud account, scrolling through photos, emails. Nothing. Then her phone records, accessed via our family plan app. There they were. Dozens of calls to David's number late at night, texts I couldn't see but could imagine. My fingers trembled on the mouse, clicking deeper. A hidden folder in her photos. God, why hadn't I noticed? Blurry shots of hotel rooms, his arm around her waist. The sight punched the air from my lungs. I slammed the laptop shut, the crack echoing like my fracturing soul. Anger roared now, pure and primal, but laced with a chilling resolve. She wouldn't get away with this. Not without paying. That night, as Sarah slipped into bed beside me, her skin warm and familiar, I lay rigid, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin. The sheets smelled of her lavender lotion, a scent that once comforted me but now turned my stomach. "Rough day," she murmured, her hand brushing my arm. I flinched, masking it as a shiver. "Yeah," I replied, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "Work stuff. David's being a real prick." Her breath hitched, subtle but I caught it. "Oh, what happened?" she asked, her tone casual, too casual. I turned to her, forcing a smile that felt like glass shards in my mouth. "Just the usual. But I'll handle it." Inside, fantasies swirled, confronting David at the office, fists flying, or worse, exposing them both in some humiliating spectacle. But doubt whispered, what if I was overreacting? What if there was an explanation? "Well, The evidence was damning. Yet guilt nipped at me. Was I stooping to her level by spying? Moral conflict churned, a vortex pulling me under. The next morning, fog clung to the neighborhood like a shroud, mirroring my hazy thoughts. I waved the kids off to school from the porch, Emily's backpack swinging as she skipped to the bus, Jack's small hand in Sarah's. She kissed me goodbye, her lips soft, traitorous. "Love you," she said, eyes meeting mine without a flicker of deceit. Or was that my imagination? As her car pulled away, I headed to Mark's house, the gravel crunching under my boots like bones. He answered the door quickly, his face etched with worry, the aroma of fresh coffee wafting out. "Come in," he said, glancing over his shoulder as if Lisa might overhear. We sat in his kitchen, the wooden table scarred from years of family meals, much like mine. "Why tell me now?" I demanded, my voice low but edged with suspicion. Mark sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. "I couldn't watch it anymore. You're a good guy, Alex. Lisa and we've had our issues. Infidelity nearly tore us apart years ago. I know the pain." His eyes held a shadow, a hint of his own scars. Layered like everyone. Seen them how many times? Pressed. 3, maybe 4. Always when you're at work. David's car in your garage lights off upstairs. He paused, then added softly, "I'm sorry. But if it were me, I'd want to know." Gratitude mixed with resentment. Why hadn't he said something sooner? But his words ignited the plan forming in my mind. Revenge wouldn't be impulsive. It would be calculated, a slow poison. Over the next days I feigned normalcy, each smile a mask cracking under strain. At work, David's office loomed like a dragon's lair. He clapped me on the back during a meeting, his cologne, the same one Sarah wore home sometimes, assaulting my senses. "Great job on that report, Alex," he boomed, his grin predatory. I nodded, swallowing bile, my mind racing with scenarios. Hacking his email, spreading rumors. But no, too risky. Home became a battlefield of subtle digs. "You seem distant," Sarah noted one evening over dinner, the clink of forks amplifying the tension. The kids chattered about school, oblivious. "Just tired," I lied, watching her face for cracks. Inside, obsession grew. I tailed her once, heart hammering as she met David at a cafe. Their heads close, hands brushing. Humiliation burned anew. Planning began in earnest that weekend. Rain lashed the windows again as I sat in the attic, dust motes dancing in the flashlight beam. Old photo albums lay open. Our wedding, Sarah radiant in white. Family vacations, smiles frozen in time. Heartbreak stabbed, but I pushed it down, focusing on the surprise. Mark had agreed to help, reluctantly at first, but his own resentment toward cheaters won out. "What do you have in mind?" he'd asked over beers in his backyard, the grill smoke curling like secrets. "Something that'll make her regret everything," I replied, my voice cold. We brainstormed. Expose her at a family gathering. No, too public, the kids would suffer. Financial ruin. Tempting but messy. Then it hit. A surprise party for our anniversary redo, inviting everyone, including David. But with a twist. Fear flickered. What if it backfired? Guilt over involving Mark, who had his own family to protect. Yet resolve hardened. She deserved this. Subtle hints built the suspense. I left anonymous notes in her purse. "I know." Watched her reaction, pale face, fidgeting hands. She grew paranoid, jumping at shadows. "Is everything okay?" I asked innocently one night, her head on my chest as we watched TV. The room glowed blue from the screen, popcorn kernels scattered like debris. "Of course," she whispered, but her voice trembled. Manipulation felt wrong, a moral gray area I waded into deeper. Inner conflict raged. Was I becoming the monster? Fantasies shifted from violence to psychological warfare, doubts assailing me in quiet moments. But resentment won, fueling the fire. By week's end, the plan solidified. Mark would accidentally invite David, pretending it was a neighborhood bash. I'd orchestrate the reveal. Hidden cameras capturing their shock, broadcast to guests. Poetic justice. As I lay awake, Sarah's breathing steady beside me, cold resolve settled like frost. The betrayal had broken me. Now I'd break her back. The anniversary surprise loomed like a guillotine, its blade sharpened by weeks of meticulous preparation. Our house buzzed with deceptive normalcy. Balloons strung across the living room, the scent of catered hors d'oeuvres mingling with fresh flowers. Sarah beamed as I blindfolded her that evening, her laughter light and genuine. "What's all this, Alex?" she asked, her hands gripping mine trustingly. Inside, my stomach twisted with a cocktail of guilt and anticipation. The kids were at my sister's, spared this carnage. Guests milled about. Family, friends, and unknowingly David lurking in the corner with a glass of wine, his eyes darting nervously. Mark nodded at me from across the room, his face a mask of grim determination. The air hummed with suppressed rage, every tick of the clock building the suspense like a tightening noose. I led Sarah to the center, the hardwood floor creaking under our feet, spotlights I'd rigged casting dramatic shadows. "Ready," I murmured, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest. She nodded, excitement flushing her cheeks. As I removed the blindfold, cheers erupted. "Surprise!" But her smile faltered when she spotted David, confusion flickering in her eyes. "What's he doing here?" she whispered, gripping my arm. Feigned innocence. Thought it'd be fun to mix work and home. Inside, obsession peaked. This was it, the moment I'd fantasized about in dark hours, doubting, fearing but pushing forward. The party unfolded in slow motion, tension coiling like a spring. Conversations flowed, laughter forced, but I watched Sarah and David orbit each other warily. Mark pulled me aside in the kitchen, the clatter of dishes masking our words. "You sure about this?" he hissed, his eyes haunted. "Lisa's starting to suspect something." Guilt nod, Mark's marriage had scars. Was I reopening them? His motivation wasn't pure altruism. I'd learned over beers that Lisa had cheated once, with a neighbor no less. "Closure for both of us," he'd said, but now doubt shadowed his face. Moral conflict mirrored mine. Were we justified or just vengeful? Subtle manipulations heightened the drama. I accidentally played a slideshow on the TV. Family photos interspersed with doctored ones. Sarah and David in compromising poses, blurred but damning. Gasps rippled through the room as heads turned. Sarah froze, her wine glass slipping, shattering on the floor like our marriage. "What the hell?" she stammered, eyes wide with horror. David paled, edging toward the door. "This is a mistake," he blustered, but his voice cracked. Dialogue erupted, natural and raw. "Alex, please," Sarah begged, tears streaking her makeup. "It's not what it looks like." Lies again. Anger surged, but I held back, letting the suspense build. Guests murmured, awkward and intrigued, the atmosphere thick with unease. I cornered her in the hallway, away from prying eyes, the wallpaper's floral pattern mocking our wilted love. "Mark told me everything," I said coldly, watching her crumble. Heartbreak resurfaced, layered with resentment. "How long?" she sobbed. 6 months. It was a mistake. I was lonely, you're always working. Excuses fueling my obsession. Lonely. With our kids. Our life. My voice rose, suppressed rage bubbling. Inner thoughts clashed. Part of me wanted to forgive, to salvage. But the betrayal's sting was too deep. Fear gripped me. What if revenge destroyed me too? Mark intervened then, his presence a catalyst. "I saw it all," he confessed loudly, drawing the crowd. "And Lisa knows too, about her own past." Shock rippled. Lisa, overhearing, stormed in, her face furious. "You told him," she spat at Mark. Hidden motives unveiled. Mark's help was partly revenge on Lisa, using my pain as a proxy. Complexity deepened. No one was innocent. Sarah turned on me, humiliation twisting her features. "You planned this. With him." Her voice broke, but fury ignited. "You're pathetic." The climax exploded in the backyard, rain starting anew, soaking us as accusations flew. David tried to flee, but I blocked him, fists clenched. "You stole my wife," I growled, the wet grass slick underfoot, thunder rumbling like judgment. He swung first, a desperate haymaker. I dodged, tackling him into the mud. Chaos ensued. Guests pulling us apart, Sarah screaming. But the real twist came when police sirens wailed. Someone had called them. As cuffs clicked on my wrists, assault charges. Sarah's eyes met mine, not with regret but cold triumph. "You think you're the victim," she whispered as they led me away. "Mark's lying. It was him all along, with me. David was a decoy." The revelation hit like lightning. Mark's confession was a setup. Flashbacks assaulted me. His eagerness to help, the evidence he'd provided. Betrayal layered upon betrayal. In the squad car, rain streaking the windows, guilt overwhelmed. My revenge had backfired, exposing not just her affair, but a deeper web. Sarah and Mark, lovers plotting to frame David and destroy me. Obsession had blinded me. Moral gray turned black. Jail cell cold, I sat alone, heartbreak final. Poetic justice. Or my own undoing. Sarah's fury at the surprise was real, but aimed at the wrong betrayal. Unexpected consequences. Divorce, custody battles, my life in ruins. Yet in the quiet, resolve lingered. Not for more revenge, but survival. The storm had passed, leaving wreckage, but perhaps renewal.